In Part 1, 5 objects with no business existing when they did. A battery with no wiring. A bird with the wrong tail. A lens sitting under furniture for 3,000 years. Verified, catalogued, argued over. Still open. These are 5 more. The Phaistos Disc, the Delhi Iron Pillar, the Quimbaya Figurines, the Costa Rica Stone Spheres, and the Voynich Manuscript. 600 years in a library at Yale, still unread. Not all of them mysterious in the way the internet claims. Some have been explained. The explanation just never made it past the headline. July 3, 1908. The site is the Minoan Palace at Phaistos, southern coast of Crete. The archaeologist is Luigi Panier, Italian, working for the Italian Archaeological School of Athens. He is digging in a room designated Building 101, northeast of the main palatial complex. The room is sealed. The ash layer around what he finds is undisturbed. What Panier pulls from the ash is a fired clay disc, roughly 16 centimeters across. Both faces covered in symbols, arranged in a continuous spiral. The symbols were not scratched in with a stylus, the way every other Minoan inscription was made. They were stamped, pressed into wet clay with individual pre-formed seals before firing. In the Bronze Age Mediterranean, no other object works this way. 242 symbols, 45 distinct signs. The disc was fired before it dried. Whoever made it intended it to last. Sun-dried tablets were administrative. Fired clay was permanent. This was not a shopping list. It was something they needed to survive. The disc has been in the Heraklion Archaeological Museum since 1908, under accession number AE 1358. Over 100 researchers have attempted to read it. Linguists, cryptographers, classicists, independent scholars with incompatible results. Not one reading has been accepted by the field. The problem is structural. To decipher an unknown script, you need either a bilingual key or a corpus large enough to run frequency analysis. The disk gives you neither. 242 tokens is not enough text. Nothing else written in this script has ever been found. Every attempt ends up fitting the symbols to a language the researcher already knows. Luwian, Proto-Ionic Greek, Ancient Indian. Each translation is internally consistent. Each contradicts every other. In 2008, a numismatist named Jerome Eisenberg proposed Pernier forged the disc to upstage his rival Arthur Evans at Knossos. Thermoluminescence testing ended that theory. The clay dates to the Bronze Age. The disc is real. The script is unread. The Heraklion Museum's position, unchanged since 1908, undeciphered, and any claimed translation is conjecture. Now for something different. The Delhi Iron Pillar stands in the Qutb complex at Meroe. 7.2 meters tall, over 6 tons. Forged during the Gupta Empire around 402 CE under Chandragupta II. 98% pure wrought iron. It has not rusted in 1,600 years. That is the claim. Unlike most claims attached to ancient artifacts, this one is simply true. The pillar stands outdoors, monsoon humidity, Delhi heat. Minor surface weathering, no structural corrosion. 16 centuries and still standing straight. The internet's version. Ancient alien technology, lost Vedic secrets. The actual explanation was published in 2000 by Professor R. Balasubramaniam at IIT Kanpur. Less dramatic, more interesting. Ancient Indian smelting did not use lime as a flux. European blast furnace production does. The lime draws phosphorus out of the iron into the slag. The Indian process left the phosphorus in. When phosphorus-rich iron cycles through wet and dry conditions, exactly what Delhi's climate delivers. It forms a crystalline layer of iron hydrogen phosphate on the surface, roughly 1/20th of a millimeter thick, impenetrable to moisture and oxygen. The pillar made its own corrosion barrier and then held it for 16 centuries. Balasubramaniam's team also established the pillar was not forged vertically, as everyone assumed. Gamma radiography showed it was built horizontally in interlocking 20-kilogram lumps of sponge iron hammered in the radial direction. The method was adapted from natural rock-locking structures in the local environment. Indian smiths in 402 CE solved a corrosion problem European metallurgy did not formally name until the 20th century. The mystery is solved, has been since 2000. What is not solved is why the ancient aliens version still circulates, while the materials science version sits in journals. The pillar gets listed on dozens of websites as proof of lost technology. The actual proof that ancient Indian metallurgy was genuinely sophisticated gets fewer views. This is a small correction. The Quimbaya figurines are at the Museo del Oro in Bogotá. Over 100 of them. Broadly 500 BCE to 1500 CE, made by the Quimbaya and Tolima cultures of pre-Columbian Colombia. Cast from tumbaga, gold, silver, and copper alloyed together. Lower melting point than pure gold, and a specific cosmological meaning. Gold for the sun, copper and silver for the moon. Each figurine is a cosmological argument in metal. A subset of these have a specific geometry. Wide, flat bodies, what look like delta wings, a vertical fin rising from the back. In 1969, a writer named Ivan Sanderson published an article in a men's adventure magazine. He argued these were scale models of aircraft, called them jet fighters. The theory entered circulation and has not left since. In 1996, 3 German aviation enthusiasts built scaled-up radio-controlled models, stripped the decorative detail, attached propellers, and flew them. The models flew. This was presented as proof. The Museo del Oro's curators read the paper. They had several problems with it. The armored catfish, family Loricariidae, is endemic to Colombian rivers. Rigid pectoral fins extending perpendicular to its body, a sharply elevated dorsal fin. Stylize an armored catfish in geometric metalwork and emphasize its most distinctive features, and you get a flat-bodied figure with delta wings and a vertical tail. The catfish was always there. Sanderson did not ask a zoologist. Flying fish, family Exocetidae, adds another candidate. So do several regional birds with similar geometry when stylized. The point is not that there is one answer. Pre-Columbian artisans were representing their natural world, not drafting aeronautical specifications. The tumbaga alloy carries the evidence. Sun metal and moon metal in balance was the meaning, not thrust-to-weight ratio. The Museo del Oro's classification has not changed. Zoomorphic and phytomorphic representations of regional fauna. The aircraft theory was proposed by a cryptozoologist in a men's magazine, amplified by hobbyist aviators, and repeated for 50 years without zoological input. Not a conspiracy. This is what happens when striking objects circulate without their context. Southern Costa Rica, the Dequis Delta, 1930s. Workers clearing jungle for United Fruit Company banana plantations start hitting something under the root systems. Rounded forms, stone. Some small enough to lift, some requiring equipment. They keep finding them. Over 300. Las bolas, the stone spheres, range from a few centimeters across to 2.66 meters in diameter. The largest weigh between 15 and 24 tons. Carved from gabbro, quarried in hills several kilometers from where they were eventually placed. The cultures that made them had no iron tools and no wheel. How they were made is a deduction, not a record. The working hypothesis: fracture the raw boulder with controlled heating and sudden cooling. Hammer with harder stone. Polish with sand. Each sphere likely took years. The largest probably required a generation. Then move it through jungle, over rivers, without draft animals, to a location someone had already chosen. Harvard archaeologist Samuel Kirkland Lothrop excavated the Dikis Delta in the late 1940s and mapped the original arrangements. Not scattered. Precise lines flanking the approaches to chieftains' elevated dwellings, some forming public plazas. The placement was deliberate and social. These were markers of power and territory. Stone cannot be radiocarbon dated, so the chronology relies on associated ceramics. Production began around 300 CE, peaked between 800 and 1550 CE. Then it stopped. The Spanish conquest collapsed the Dikis population. The people who knew how to make them, and what they meant, did not survive to explain either. In June 2014, UNESCO inscribed the sites on the World Heritage List. The stated reason: outstanding representation of complex social, economic, and political systems. Not mysteries. Monuments to a civilization's organization of space and hierarchy, readable even without surviving written records. What remains genuinely open: the mechanics of moving 24-ton stones through jungle without wheels. Whether any placement geometry encodes astronomical alignments. The full socio-religious significance beyond prestige. The National Museum of Costa Rica keeps those questions open. Who made them? When? And broadly, why? Those are answered. 1912. A Polish-American rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich buys a manuscript from the Jesuit Collegio Romano in Frascati, Italy. He cannot read it. He shows it to colleagues. They cannot read it. He spends the rest of his life looking for someone who can. He does not find one. The manuscript is at Yale's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library, MS 408. In 2009, the University of Arizona radiocarbon dated the vellum, 1404 to 1438. Calfskin, 14 or 15 animals. The ink is iron gall. Pigments, azurite blue, copper-based green. Physically, the object is exactly what it appears to be. A 15th century manuscript made with period-appropriate materials by someone who knew how to make a book. 6 sections. Botanical, 113 plant species, none definitively identified. Astronomical, circular diagrams with suns, moons, zodiac symbols. Balneological, small figures wading in pools connected by tube systems. Cosmological, fold-out diagrams of unknown purpose. Pharmaceutical, plant roots and apothecary jars, and a recipe section marked by stars in the left margins. The script flows left to right. No obvious punctuation, no corrections. The letter forms are consistent. Whoever wrote this had done it before, likely many times. About 35,000 words. The statistical distribution follows Zipf's law, a signature of natural language. But the morphological structure, certain elements fixed rigidly at word beginnings or endings, does not match any known natural language. It behaves like a language. It also behaves like it is not one. William and Elizabeth Friedman, the cryptanalysts who broke Axis codes in the Second World War, spent years on the Voynich Manuscript. John Tiltman, one of the most decorated code breakers in British history, worked it for decades. None of them found an entry point, not a word, not a proper name, not a number that matched anything in any known system. 3 theories have outlasted serious scrutiny. First, a constructed language, an artificial script built on categorical logic of the kind philosophers would develop in the 17th century. The carbon date is the problem. The manuscript predates the earliest known philosophical languages by roughly 100 years. The chronology doesn't fit unless someone was working well ahead of their time. Second, a complex cipher concealing a natural language underneath. Latin, Hebrew, a vernacular Romance tongue, historically plausible. The difficulty is that no known 15th century encryption method produces Voynich's statistical signature without requiring a process so tedious that errors would be inevitable. The manuscript has no detectable errors. Third, a hoax. A manuscript built to look like encoded text, intended for sale to wealthy Renaissance collectors. Possibly Emperor Rudolph II of Prague, who reportedly paid 600 gold ducats for it sometime in the early 17th century. Gordon Rugg showed in 2003 that a Cardan grill, a card with cut-out holes moved over a table of syllables, can mechanically generate Voynich's statistical pattern. The method works. Whether it was used is unknown. Yale digitized the full manuscript in 2020 to allow global collaborative research. Since then, multiple claimed decipherments have been published. None has survived peer review. The Voynich Library's position has not changed. Undeciphered, language or encoding system unknown, no proposed reading independently verified. 5 objects, 2 genuinely unsolved. The Phaistos Disc and the Voynich Manuscript have resisted a combined 3 centuries of serious academic effort. No decipherment, no entry point, no accepted key. The institutions holding them say so directly. 2 are solved. The Delhi iron pillar's rust resistance has a peer-reviewed material science explanation available since 2000. The Quimbaya Figurines represent regional fauna, confirmed by the curators who hold the collection. These are not mysteries. They are evidence of ancient competence that the internet keeps filing under anomaly, because competence is harder to monetize than conspiracy. One sits in the middle. The stone spheres have a known origin culture, a known date range, a known social function, a UNESCO designation. What is not known is how 24-ton stones crossed a jungle without wheels. That question is open. It probably needs a specialist in pre-industrial logistics more than it needs an alternative history. No definitive account exists yet. The pattern across both parts of this series is not that ancient people were more advanced than we assume. The pattern is that we misread the evidence in both directions. We call solved things mysterious. We call competent things impossible. We listen to the adventurer instead of the zoologist. The objects are real. The institutions are public. The papers are in the journals. The question is the same every time. What does the object actually say? And what are we projecting onto it?